Greetings everyone, Sean McLean aka Zaranyzerak here. Tonight I'm going to be doing a special Transformers oriented webcast, and as a part of it I really wanted to show some of my toys, because I actually have a lot of the old G1 toys. The problem is they're all in this trunk and we don't know where the key is. So I'm down to the 0 hour, the webcast is tonight, so I need to get this thing open. Now the trick is to see if we can pop this sucker open without destroying the whole thing, because this is kind of a family heirloom trunk, and I'd like to keep it more or less in one piece. So we're going to see if we can just kind of pop it open and then get to all the goodies inside. Well, yeah, I think we busted it. Yeah, it is totally toast. But of course the important thing is, now we can get into the trunk. See you at the webcast, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special live broadcast of the Multimedia Chronicles. I am, of course, your host, Zaranyzerak. So tonight's topic is being a lifelong Transformers fan. 2009 is, of course, the 25th anniversary of the Transformers, so I thought it might be kind of fun to take a bit of a look back and give you my own personal spin on what Transformers has meant to me over the years. Now, first off, I do have to apologize. I won't be able to participate in the chat or take questions for this first part of the show because I'm actually capturing it to be posted later as a Multimedia Chronicles episode. So unfortunately that means I have to monitor the capture to make sure that everything is working okay. But I will be more active in the chat after this little nostalgia trip. I first got into Transformers in the summer of 1984 when the toys and the comics first appeared. I honestly don't remember if it was the toys or the comics that I got into first. I think they were both around the same time, so it's kind of hard to separate those two memories. I do remember my friends and I all bought the first issue of the comic when it first came out, and we were really excited. We were like, ooh, 4-issue limited series, and couldn't wait for each issue. It was, of course, published bi-monthly, which meant, you know, with each issue leaving off on a cliffhanger, and having to wait 2 months for the next issue to come out. Well, needless to say, it gave you a lot of time to reread and fully digest each issue. Alas, I don't have any of my old comics anymore. I actually sold them a while back. Now in my later years, I wasn't quite as interested in having the originals around as much as I was having money. So I actually sold all my original comics and but I hung on to a number of reprints, so I can still read them. So yeah, I do still have a few reprints kicking around, but I don't have the originals anymore, which is unfortunate because, you know, looking back, one of the things I've always enjoyed about getting the original runs of comics is the letters pages. You know, it's really interesting to read what fans were talking about back in the day, you know, and you just don't get that with the reprint editions. The Transformers was actually the first comic book I actively collected, and was pretty much single-handedly responsible for getting me into collecting comics. I would continue collecting comics for approximately 10 years or so, amassing a collection of about 2,000 individual comic books. Pretty impressive stuff, considering I bought all those essentially with my allowance. But of course, back then comics were less than $1 a piece, so it was a little more affordable for a 12-year-old kid. I remember when I originally got the Transformers comic, the first issue. It was a huge, huge thing amongst my friends, so I wanted to bring it to school to show off. And, you know, I figured I had some bragging rights, right? So I brought it to school, but I didn't want the teachers seeing it, of course. I mean, the stereotypical thing, bringing a comic book to class was such a big no-no. So what I did was I had a binder and a textbook, and I slipped the comic, issue number 1 of the Transformers, in mint condition, between the cover of my binder and this hardcover textbook. Not thinking to maybe put it in the textbook or in the binder. No, I put it between, and I just sort of carefully held it as I walked into class. And then no sooner did I walk into class and I was about to go to my desk when the textbook shifted and I heard this sickening and I knew that I had just destroyed my mint condition copy of Transformers #1, which by this point was sold out everywhere and was already starting to fetch collector's prices. I mean, this thing just took off like that. So yeah, that was eventually I did get a replacement. Paid about $10 for it at the time, and I think it was in even better condition than the one I had originally, so yeah. But lesson learned. Learned a different kind of lesson in class that day. Take care of your comic books. Now, as for the toys, all the Transformers you see around me is basically my entire collection. It's pretty much the entire Wave 1 line, minus about, I don't know, half a dozen or so. The first Transformer I ever got was Mirage. Oh my god! Ah! Yeah, he broke a while ago. I don't actually remember what specifically happened. I think I must have blocked the memory from my mind because it was so horrifying. But yeah, poor Mirage suffered a terrible mishap. There's actually a pin in the middle where the bottom half is supposed to rotate, and that's how you form his legs. But somewhere along the line, the pin broke. So I bought another one. So this is Mirage Mark II. Yeah, who I've taken very good care of. In case you're wondering why I occasionally hold stuff up over there, it's because I have a second camera filming everything from on high. Speaking of tragedies with my Transformers, the other big tragedy, and sadly one I never got a replacement for, is Shockwave, who you may notice is missing an arm. I'm actually missing some of the broken pieces too. I don't specifically remember what happened with him, but I know that it had something to do with a friend of mine. The aforementioned best friend, well, brought one of his friends over to my place one day to play with our Transformers. And, well, this guy just didn't know how to handle toys properly, and he had Shockwave for not more than 30 seconds, and it was completely busted. I don't know what the hell he did to it, but I was never able to fix him. Now, I'm able to get him at least to this stage, so he's more or less in complete robot form, just missing the arm. But, I mean, it's Shockwave. You just don't throw out Shockwave, even when he's broken, you know? It's one of the coolest Transformers ever. So let that be a lesson to you kids. Don't let strange friends of friends play with your action figures. One final tale of horror involving my Transformers. I was riding my bicycle over to the aforementioned best friend's house with a plastic bag full of all my Transformers. And as I was riding my bike, the bag is a little awkward. It's kind of hanging off my handlebars. So I was kind of sort of trying to adjust it, and I wasn't really looking where I was going. So no sooner did I look up than I saw there was a parked pickup truck right in front of me. It was too late to stop, too late to turn around. I smashed headlong into the back of the pickup truck. The bag of Transformers swung up over the handlebars, over the back of the pickup truck, and smashed into the back panel. I thought for sure I was going to have a bag of unidentifiable Transformers bits. But miraculously, there was pretty much no damage to any of them. Man, if that isn't a testament to the sturdiness of 80s toy construction, I don't know what is. Die-cast metal and unbreakable plastic. Yeah! Yet somehow that kid still managed to break my shockwave. Me? Bitter? 25 years later? Oh no, it's just a toy. Now you may have noticed when I was showing the toys earlier that I have two of the Constructicons, specifically Long Haul and Bone Crusher. Why don't I have all six, you may be wondering? Well, for a very good reason. I mean, toys cost money, and as a kid I generally didn't have a lot of money, so I had to be selective about what I bought. So my friends and I decided what we would do is we would each focus on getting one or two of the Constructicons. And then when we had all six, collectively, we would get together and form Devastator. So we did. And there was much fighting, disagreeing, and scuffling over who would get to form Devastator. But in the end, we did form Devastator, and damn, he was cool! Of course, now we've all gone our separate ways, so that means there's two more people out there with only two Constructicons. Yeah. I didn't even get Devastator's head. I think I have one of his hands and part of his chest plate or something like that, so... Oh well. Still cool. So we've talked about the toys, we've talked about the comics. What else is there? I can't think of anything. Don't kill me, of course there's the cartoon! Now prior to the show, all we had as far as an animated version of the Transformers was a handful of toy commercials and a commercial for the first issue of the comic book. All of the above my friends and I had seen many, many times before. And we were really excited about the commercials whenever they came on because the animation was really awesome. It was just great to see the characters brought to life in animated form. So I remember one day I was playing in the basement of my parents' house, and I think ironically I was playing with my Transformers, and I heard the familiar Transformers theme song, which of course by this point we were all quite familiar with from the commercials. So I thought, oh, it must be a new commercial. So I watched for a bit, and it, ran for 30 seconds, standard commercial length, and then it ended. And I thought, wow, that was kind of an interesting commercial. There was no shots of the toys or the comic or anything. It was just all animation. Then it faded back in, and there was Cybertron. And the narrator began to speak those first few lines explaining the backstory of the Transformers. And I was like, I just stood there in shock. I was like, oh my god, there's a show. So I immediately jumped on the phone, tried to call my best friend, my fellow Transformers freak, and he wasn't home. I called and called and called, and I think I only sort of half saw the first 5 minutes of the show because I was trying to call my friend, but he wasn't home, and he missed it. He insists to this day that he didn't miss it, and that he, in fact, was the one trying to call me. But this memory is so vivid and so real, it might as well have happened yesterday. There is no way I'm misremembering this. No way. I think he's just jealous because I saw it first. Now, those of you who watch my show on YouTube will know that I'm an obsessive DVD collector and have been collecting videos in one format or another for many, many, many years. You know what the very first show I actually bought videos of on a regular basis was? The first one I actually collected the videos of? Yep, Transformers. There was a series of video releases of the first season, basically one episode per tape, and you were looking at $20 per episode. Not cheap, but for an obsessive Transformers fan like me, I happily shelled out the 20 bucks an episode. And I actually managed to collect, over the years, every single volume of that original series of releases. Then, of course, in 1986, the movie came out, which, can you believe it, I actually missed it when it was in theaters? Me, who was a fan literally since day one, missed the movie in theaters. But I more than made up for it, because as soon as that sucker came out on home video, I bought it. I special ordered it, got it, watched it over and over and over again. I actually bought the original video release as soon as it became available to the public. I think it was only available for rental for a while, and then once it went down to sale price, I bought that one for the collection as well. And I showed that thing to all my friends. Some of them had seen it, most of them hadn't. So I was like the king among my friends again, because I had the Transformers movie. It was interesting because when I first got into Transformers was in 1984. I was 12 years old. In 1986 I was 14. Now, that's a pretty major period in one's life, in one's personal development. You know, that sort of pre-puberty, heading into teenage years period. So it was almost like the Transformers was growing up with me, because the movie was way darker and grittier and more intense than the show ever was. And then the season that followed the movie was similarly dark and intense and had a lot more intelligent writing behind it, even though I know a lot of people didn't care for it as much as the older episodes. It was a better show in many ways. It had a lot more of an epic quality about it that the earlier episodes didn't. So it was like the Transformers was growing up right along with me. So it was kind of cool in that respect. So a few years later, the movie was re-released in Canada for the first time uncensored. It actually had the infamous swear word of Spike put back in, but with mono sound. It was very odd because the movie was originally done in stereo. But since then, I bought it not once, but twice on DVD. Have the Rhino home video release, and of course the 20th anniversary release, both of which are excellent. Why do I have both? Well, basically because they both have different extras. So, I'm a Transformers freak, so I want all the extras. If you're only going to get one, of course, the 20th anniversary edition is the one to get. So to sum up, I guess the long and the short of it is, Transformers has definitely had an impact on my life. I mean, it was the thing that got me into collecting comic books originally, it was the thing that got me into collecting videos originally. And now, I make a living reviewing videos. And that basically started with me collecting Transformers back in the day. So from me to you, Transformers, happy 25th anniversary. Well folks, that's it for the first part of this webcast. I will now jump into the chat and be sociable. Thanks for listening to my nostalgic ramblings. Just before we sign off, I just want to say don't forget to check out the Multimedia Chronicles on YouTube for more of my rants, raves, reviews, and randomness at this address. Hope to see you there. Until next time, thanks for watching, and sayonara. Till all are one.